Ben Cohen, i.e. the Ben in Ben & Jerry's ice cream, was one of 7 people arrested for protesting during U.S. Health Secretary Robert F. Kennedy Jr.'s testimony before a Senate committee. Here's a clip from the protest.
Permitted while the committee conducts its business. Capitol Police are asked to remove the individuals from the hearing room.
Move down the hallway.
Ben, why are you getting arrested?
Move down the hallway. If you stop, you will be arrested.
Poor kids in Gaza by buying bombs and pays for it by kicking kids off Medicaid in the U.S.
Keep going down. Keep going down the hallway.
Ben, how many days have they been starving in Gaza?
What has it been? 75 days by now. Stop.
Anthony, I need my shoe.
Our program.
We work down the hall right now. Let's go. Everybody. I'm saying, everybody. Stop this. Pick it up. Stop business. Pick it up.
Ben, what are you calling for the Congress and senators to do for Gaza?
Congress and the senators need to ease the siege. They need to let food into Gaza. They need to let food into starving kids.
What did you say in there, man?
I said that Congress is paying to bomb poor kids in Gaza and paying for it by kicking poor kids off Medicaid in the U.S.
So you can see Cohen there, who is the older gentleman with white hair, being dragged out of the hearing in handcuffs. He's protesting the ongoing military aid being sent by the US to Israel, which is currently conducting a genocidal assault in the Gaza Strip. Speaking about his protest, Cohen said this in an interview with Chris Cuomo.
What's happening in Gaza is horrible. They just agreed to restart the aid, and I've been critical of the stopping of aid and how necessary it is. But don't you have to give some space for the fact that Hamas, a terror organization, is still holding 6 people just about, and that they need to give them back if they want to have high ground, don't they?
Yes, the hostages need to be returned, but that's no justification to kill tens of thousands of children, old people, mothers, fathers, people just like us.
Well, just like us, some, yes. Others are aligned with a terror organization. I'm not talking about the kids. I'm talking about the people who are on the ground, who are adults in Gaza. And if it were America and they had 59 of our people and they were a terror organization, do you think the United States would be doing anything different than Israel is?
Boy, I would hope they'd be doing something different, because what's going on in Israel right now is genocide with our bombs. The American people have become complicit in the genocide that Israel is engaging in. And if it weren't for us providing the bombs, they wouldn't be able to do it.
Well, they have a lot of their own weapons. You know that, Ben. I know you're very sophisticated about this stuff. But don't you believe that genocide, obviously there's a legal standard, but do you target things? Do you avoid things? Do you pace things? Do you allow any aid the way Israel has if it's really a genocide? We've seen what that looks like in other situations. It doesn't look like this.
Boy, it sure looks like it to me. I mean, let me think. All the hospitals have been destroyed. All the universities have been destroyed. The schools have been destroyed. The housing has been destroyed. And tens of thousands of people have been killed.
I mean, so many things in that interview. First of all, people, Ben says there, these people just like us, these Palestinians who are being killed by these weapons that our government is paying for, they're just like us. And Chris Cuomo can't help himself. He goes, some of them are just like us. And then he goes, I'm not talking about the kids, I'm talking about the adults. So implicitly there, it's like, what? So if you're a Palestinian adult living in Gaza, you're not just like us. You're not someone who has brothers, sisters, parents, children, like hopes, dreams, a life. Like, this kind of language creates this carte blanche to basically say that Palestinian adults who don't have the plausible innocence of a child are guilty until proven innocent. And normally they're going to be proven innocent after they've been bombed. Also, Ben points out, like, this is a genocidal assault. And then they have this kind of textbook answer People who are trying to sort of defend what Israel is doing. And they say, well, because of this kind of like, they let in this like little piece of bread on Tuesday, the 23rd of this month, blah, blah, blah. So, they wouldn't do that if it was a genocide. I'm like, sorry, but the ICJ, which is a court that has seen, that actually has, whose job it is to define what to prosecute genocide, and has seen all of the evidence, and where people who are experts on this topic have seen evidence that I haven't seen, most of us haven't seen, are saying there is a plausible risk of genocide here. And that is the furthest that the ICJ can go at this stage, because it takes years and years and years to firmly say that this is a genocide. It's unfortunately the process is far too long. But the idea that Chris Cuomo can just sit there in his armchair and say, well, I don't think it is because of this news report that I've heard somewhere, that he thinks that he knows better, that he can have a better assessment on whether or not this is a genocide than a court that is literally set up to adjudicate whether or not something is a genocide. I mean, for me, look, obviously, I have my own position on what Israel has been doing to Palestine now for over 70 years, nearly 100 years. But even if you want to position yourself as some kind of neutral outsider, which is absurd, but even if you do want to do that, you can't take the ICJ at their word. On what basis can you not take them at their word? Now, obviously, Israel has long been the largest recipient of US military aid, which is what Ben Cohen was protesting there. And this has only increased since Israel began its war in Gaza over a year ago. So this graph from the Council on Foreign Relations shows a consistently high level of military aid per year, going all the way back to 1970, with billions being sent annually when adjusted for inflation. And you can see there a huge hike at the end, from $3.9 billion in 2023 to $12.5 billion in 2024. And since taking office, Trump has already approved nearly $12 billion in foreign military sales to Israel. With the aid of this spending, Israel has, in this war alone, killed at least 61,000 Palestinians in Gaza, including more than 17,000 children, injured over 100,000, and left at least 14,000 trapped under the rubble. Ben & Jerry's have been one of the only major American corporations to call out the US's enabling of Israel's genocide attack on Gaza. And back in 2021, the company announced it would no longer allow its Israeli licensee to sell its ice cream in the West Bank and Gaza. The move was blocked a year later by a US judge, forcing the company to roll back on the policy. Now, obviously, one of the things that Ben was really emphasizing there is that the US state is taking money out of Medicaid for children in the US and using it to bomb children in Palestine. And, it goes without saying that even if Medicaid was absolutely thriving, even if, public services in the West were absolutely thriving, that would not justify sending billions of dollars to a country that is at plausible risk of, according to the ICJ, of conducting a genocide in Palestine. But it is an important and profound point there to bring up that these administrations, the Trump administration, the state, are not interested in protecting lives that it doesn't see as valuable. One of those categories are Palestinian lives. Another category is poor lives. And that's why we are seeing in tandem the same government that is signing off these outrageous numbers in military aid to Israel are also cutting Medicaid from the poorest children, from the poorest people in their own countries. It's a shared ideology. And that's what that protest, I think, quite profoundly emphasized. Thanks for joining me today, Kieran. What's your favorite Ben & Jerry's ice cream? What are you going to tuck into tonight?
I'm glad you asked. Well, just quickly to say on all of that, I know we've run out of time, but it's nice to see that, I'm a guilty consumer of things sometimes. I think we all are, if we're honest with ourselves. And it's nice to see that all of those pots of cookie dough consumed throughout my teenage years, at least the money didn't go to the very worst of the rich and powerful. And next stop, I hope, for Ben & Jerry's, full on BDS. Thank you. It's been an emotional day. It's been an emotional show, actually. And thanks for hosting it, Dalia. And thanks to everybody who's listened and watched.